Let's talk about one of the evils of security, depending on your perspective, DRM, or Digital Rights Management. DRM is an access control technology. Its original purpose was designed to protect copyright material from being pirated, copied, and distributed. The goal is to make sure that whoever owns the content has control over who gets to view it. This came up with the music industry and Napster, certainly as far back as Beta and VHS, copy protections on the original cassettes, all sorts of things. But digital rights management is the application of that to MP3s, music files, Word documents, anything that the data owner wants to protect. First generation DRM was designed to control copying of data. When that kind of got circumvented, second generation DRM was intended to control who can execute, view, copy, open, print, or otherwise view the actual information that was trying to be protected. I think there are varying viewpoints on how effective DRM actually is, but I'll put it this way. If you were the copyright owner, if you owned this information, wouldn't you at least want to try to protect it with some type of DRM? A lot of people will point fingers at how evil DRM is, how it prevents copying or prevents legitimate usage and all of that. But at the end of the day, the copyright owner, the data owner, wants to make sure that they're fairly reimbursed for the work that they've done putting into that that work or that production. And so DRM is an attempt to at least try to get people to buy the content. Although if you look at piracy and the current state of it with file sharing, peer-to-peer networks and all of that, there's some debate as to whether that's really effective or not. There are different technologies at play here for DRM, like restrictive licensing agreements, where you have digital materials that are copyrighted. You can put restrictive licenses on it so that you can only make one backup copy of it. You can't distribute it. But at the end of the day, a restrictive licensing agreement is a piece of paper that says what you can and can't do. There's not really a corresponding enforcement of that, just through the licensing agreement. This is where things like encryption, tagging, the use of product keys, where this stuff starts to come into play. Because you can encrypt the software, the music, the movie, whatever the case may be. You can encrypt that, and only the people with the appropriate decryption key will be able to view it. And so when you buy something like this, what you're buying is an encrypted file, which is garbage, and a decryption key, which gives you the ability to actually see the content or use the software that you've bought. And there's also tagging. This is a data marker to control access or reproduction of the information. And this really isn't a restriction as much as it is a deterrent. So if you go out and, say, buy the ISO 27000 series of documents, a core set of them runs about $1,000. If you go buy that, those documents get tagged with your name, your company name, so that if and a unique ID. And if those files end up on the internet somewhere and available for everybody to download, well, then the ISO organization can look at that unique ID, come back to you and go, you're the one who put this out on the internet. Again, the tagging doesn't necessarily stop you from doing it, but it's going to end up pointing the finger right back at you if they find it. Digital watermarking. This is a visible form of steganography, where you add some type of image or some type of text to a file that says, this is mine, this was produced by me, copyright, whatever. It's usually used to safeguard intellectual property, and it usually works in concert with data leakage, DLP solutions, because the DLP solutions are looking for that digital watermark. And if they see that on any email attachments, files uploaded to websites, whatever the case may be, it'll flag that and go, hey, there was a digital watermarking protected document that was just, exfiltrated, for lack of a better word, out through the network. And you see these in play usually through enterprise DRM solutions or enterprise rights management. There are solutions out there which will tag all your documents, like Microsoft Word or PDF or AutoCAD files. It'll tag all the documents for you and then specifically look at the boundaries to make sure that that information isn't actually leaving your network. As far as other technologies, techniques, limited install activations, you sometimes see software that you can download. Windows does this. You have, between 2 and 3, maybe more if they're generous, but usually between 2 and 3 installations that you can do. So you can use this product key with this software up to 3 times on any number of computers, and after that, you have to go buy another license key or another product key. There's metadata usually included with media or records data that might include your name, your account information, your email address. So if that installation media gets copied out onto the internet, they know who to point the finger at. Again, not so much a deterrent as it is or it's a deterrent, not a technology to block the copying of that software or application or whatever it was. And then CD keys, again, you see this with Windows, Microsoft Windows. There's a key that goes along with it. When you install the software for the first time, you've got to enter some 26-character random code into the installation program for it to be able to continue. Disadvantages of DRM. DRM is not perfect, as evidenced by all the file sharing, peer-to-peer networks, BitTorrent, everything else that's out there. This is not a silver bullet. It doesn't stop anything and everything. There are this concept of the analog hole. So if you have a digital MP3, you can actually play it through your headphones or through your line out on the computer, pipe it right back into the microphone, and how does the computer know that you're not listening to it as opposed to making a copy of it? Well, it doesn't. What you're really doing is taking a digital file, converting it to analog so you can hear it, and recording or digitizing that analog signal again. And that's how you end up with this analog hole where you can take a digital copy of MP3s, works for videos as well, and create another copy of it, completely bypassing whatever DRM might be on there. Watermarks can often be removed. The bit-by-bit copying of media can happen, and then you can distribute that over the internet. I think the chief complaints that you see with DRM is consumer-based, where you have a legitimate consumer who screams about, well, I can't make a backup copy of this. Generally, manufacturers or vendors have said, yeah, whatever. You're not going to make a legitimate backup copy of it anyway, so don't worry about it. But you see a lot of complaining in forums about, DRM, I can't make a legitimate backup copy of this, how dare you, whatever. And then I think the biggest complaint is probably legitimate reinstallations. So every time I upgrade my computer, if I'm lucky enough to do that once every 6 months, I quickly run out of those 2 to 3 activation codes that I have. And every time after that, I've got to call Microsoft or Adobe or whatever the case, whatever vendor it might be, and say, look, I'm reinstalling my copy of Windows XP, even though it's 15 years old. I'm reinstalling Windows XP on a system. Can you please enable the activation of this? I think there's another case of DRM restricting certain online games. You have to be connected to the internet in order to play this game. And so a lot of people complain about, well, what if I want to play my game in a power outage? I probably shouldn't be playing on a computer during a power outage anyway. Well, what if I want to play it on an airplane? Well, okay, you're kind of hosed there. So there's a lot of consumer complaints about DRM. So again, it goes back to bringing up this question of, is DRM really effective? Does it provide anything, or does it simply frustrate legitimate users of it while not doing anything to stem the flow of piracy? There are various laws that cover this type of copyright infringement, copying, privacy, or piracy. The World Intellectual Property Office has a copyright treaty which requires signatory parties to this treaty to have laws that respect DRM and respect the ownership rights of the content creators. The U.S. is a signatory to that, and that's why we have the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which bans the production and dissemination of copyright material. And then the EU has a component of this as well, which is almost a duplicate of the DMCA, but essentially it says that if you've got a copyrighted material, you can't make a copy of it and start distributing it without the permission of whoever the data owner is.